What's going on, guys? Welcome back to WWE Network and Show, where I, Graham G.S. and Matthews, break down all the original content I watch on the WWE Network and on Peacock. And today we're talking the April 23rd, 2022 edition of Talking Smack. In the studio, we had Jackie Redmond, Matt Camp, per usual, being joined by Jerry Lawler, unfortunately. So they start off the show running down the biggest headlines from Friday's SmackDown. Not an overly exciting show. Talked about it on Saturday afternoon here on the channel. Check that out. Full audio review out, if you haven't already, from SmackDown on Friday from yours truly. They start off by recapping the Madcap Moss Angel match that saw Moss pick up the victory. We hear backstage from Baron Corbin, Happy Corbin, whatever, being interviewed by Sarah Schreiber. And the other one, Megan Moran. I get their interviewers confused because a lot of them are almost exactly the same as far as their delivery and their monotone voice and stuff like that. But I think Megan Moran is fine, all kidding aside. But anyway, so she asks him about Madcap beating Angel on SmackDown and Corbin attacking him afterward. And Corbin says, listen, everyone deserves a second chance. I offered him his job back as my sidekick. He turned it down. And Corbin says, listen, I'm a nice guy. That's what I do. I'm trying to mold him into the right person here. But, listen, I didn't steal the trophy. My name is on the trophy. I won the trophy in my first night of WrestleMania 32 to become the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal winner. And it's merely just waiting for me. So back in the studio, they talk about how Corbin and Moss official for WrestleMania Backlash, by the way, unfortunately. We're getting that at the pay-per-view. Though I guess it makes sense. Corbin does promise to beat him as well. But back in the studio, Jerry Lawler talks about how Corbin will win that match and will be smiling in the end. And Matt Cam says it's going to be a big win for Moss if he can beat Corbin, a guy that, with a lot of accolades, and Moss is still relatively new and on the WWE scene and still fresh in his WWE career. And, Moss is the rightful owner of the trophy, which is Matt Camp, which is what he reiterates. Talking pretty much about how, like a hockey team, if they were to win the Stanley Cup and if they just won it, that team would be the rightful owner of that trophy, not the team that won it 6 years ago. So, and Jackie knows all about that because she covers the NHL and stuff like that. But Jerry Lawler, as far as the Charlotte and Ronda Rousey match at WrestleMania Backlash, the I Quit match for the SmackDown Women's Championship, he's favoring Ronda. He said that Charlotte may or may not have hurt her arm. Not real, obviously. It was a fake injury. But on SmackDown, she, nicked her arm or something on the table or whatever during the contract signing when Ronda, flipped over the table. So he's currently favoring Ronda in that matchup. And he also calls whatever Drew Gulak was doing embarrassing, which I would agree with. And clearly that's his new gimmick, just being a bumbling idiot for whoever he's being associated with. But anyway, Matt Camp also kind of adds that you can win an I Quit match by forcing your opponent to say I quit without necessarily tapping them out or making them submit. You can just merely beat them up until they say I quit. So that's another way of winning that match, which is what he brings up. They then replay the Riddle versus Jey Uso match, another fun outing on SmackDown. Riddle wins that one. They then hype up the championship unification match between RK Bro and the Usos for WrestleMania Backlash. Raw Tag Team titles, SmackDown Tag Team titles, both on the line. Camp mentions that RK Bro were the team that won at SummerSlam, or rather Survivor Series, a few months ago in that brand supremacy matchup when it was champion versus champion. So the Usos aren't the only team in WWE that won all the gold. They then replay the Sasha Banks, Naomi, Natalya, Shayna Baszler segment from the show, which was not very good. I really could care less about Natalya being featured as much as she has been lately. But Natalya says that she feels disrespected, disregarded. She kind of goes off for a few minutes talking about how Natalya says that, she basically says that Sasha can't be trusted, which is true. She turns on all of her partners, so she's not necessarily wrong when she says that. But she says Baszler has more charisma in her pinky finger than all of Naomi does in her entire body or whatever. And then she storms off, and then Baszler simply says, I'm sick and tired of being disregarded. And that was it, and she walks off too. So Natalya trying to sound off here on Banks and Naomi, how anyone can give a fuck about this tag team, even with the whole explanation of, we're being overlooked. That was Natalya's motivation for joining up with Tamina, was the fact that they were overlooked. It's literally the same team with a different partner, and same thing with Shayna Baszler, who was just teaming with Nia Jax 6 months ago, and all of a sudden she has a new partner as well. It makes absolutely no sense. Matt Camp says that Natalya just might be jealous that Banks and Naomi are an actual cohesive unit. They get along, they have momentum. And, Natalya even mentioned, too, how many times has she turned on Naomi and it hasn't worked out? I don't think they've ever turned on each other. I think Naomi may have broken it off with her in early 2016, but beyond that, they haven't really had many other falling outs in WWE, so that's not exactly accurate. But they just have to win more matches in order to get a title shot, though I'm sure they'll get awarded the title shot anyway. They then recapped Drew McIntyre versus Sami Zayn, the Lumberjack main event between the two. It ended in a no contest after Zayn ran off into the audience again. And then they recap the Xavier Woods versus Butch match, which was won by Woods. Butch went off, lost his mind, walked out into the crowd. We hear backstage with Megan Morant, again, interviewing the New Day's Xavier Woods and Kofi Kingston. Woods says, he asks Megan, what's the definition? Do you understand what the word inertia means? Things that are moving will continue to move, and momentum, and he talks about that and how they're currently flying at light speed. From their win over Butch 2 weeks ago to now, the records have been reset in their mind, and that, Butch is a great opponent. He's a very good wrestler, but his attitude, according to Kofi, is trash. And they don't care where Butch is. Megan asked this dumb question, do you care where Butch is? Are you worried he might be on the loose? And Xavier had this great answer. I'm a grown man with bills and kids. Why would I care where Butch is on a Friday night? You know what I mean? So I thought he had a great answer for it. And they talk a little bit about that, go back to the studio. Jerry Lawler says that Butch might need anger management and calls him a loose cannon before mentioning maybe the fact why he's so angry is because he's on the smaller side. And Matt Camp quickly disregarded that and said, I don't think he has a Napoleon complex. I think it's more a matter of him just continuing to lose. And he questions who can calm him down, and Sheamus and Holland are going to have to be the ones to rein him in if they want him on their side. But Lawler says, regardless of what's been going on with them lately, big things are in store for this unholy trinity is what they're calling them now. They called them that on SmackDown. They called them that here on Talking Smack several times. So I guess that's the new stable name, which doesn't really fit at all, I don't think, for Sheamus, Ridge, and Pete Dunne or Butch or whatever. So, that was stupid. I mean, the name is cool, but I don't think it. I mean, I honestly think that would be a better name for like Edge, Priest, and whoever they pair up with soon. Although I think the Grand Jury is what they're going with. But anyway, Jerry Lawler then previews the steel cage match for next week between Drew and Sammy. You could barely hear the guy by the end because I think his mic fell or something he said, and he just was almost inaudible. And Jackie and Matt didn't know how to react because they didn't know what he said. Jerry did end up fixing the mic. By that point, it was too late in the end of the show. But pretty much they just said that Matt Camp says that Sammy is going to try to escape in that steel cage match next week. Drew instead is going to keep him in there, punish him, and that he wants gold, so this will be his next step towards getting a championship shot, as if he can beat Sammy on SmackDown decisively next week. And Zayn won't be able to run away as easily with that cage, surrounding the ring. So that was Talking Smack for April 23rd, 2022. Decent episode. The New Day interview was actually entertaining. The Shayna and Natalya stuff, the Shayna and Natalya interview, I could possibly give two fucks about. I really just don't care. And the Corbin stuff was fine. So a pretty standard edition of Talking Smack here today. And thank you guys, as always, for checking out the reviews and the videos. I appreciate it. Be sure to like the video, drop a comment, share the video, and subscribe to the channel for more daily content. And we'll be back soon with more WrestleMania coverage or WrestleMania weekend coverage, interviews, and stuff like that. So have a great one, guys. I'm Graham G.S. Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.